My name is Mary, but of course that's not my real name. I'm a professional basketball player here in the US, and this is the story of how I shattered my own heart with my own hands, destroying the beautiful life I had with the love of my life. While it may sound like a story you've heard before, I ask that you pay close attention to the details. It's those tiny moments, one small slip, a fleeting indulgence, that can bring everything crashing down. And believe me, it's dark and lonely here where I am now. I met Raymond, the love of my life, at a party. We had just won a huge game and my team was celebrating hard. I wasn't drinking much though, I don't like getting drunk and I had to drive my friends home. Raymond came along with a friend of one of my teammates. I guess he noticed me sitting there quietly with my drink and decided to come over and talk. I had just gotten out of a rough relationship and the last thing I wanted was anything serious. But from the moment Raymond spoke, I knew there was something special about him. His smile, his laugh, the way he made me feel at ease, it was all perfect. We spent the entire night talking, and by the end of it, I felt like I had known him my whole life. It was love at first sight. We got married 6 months later, everything happening so fast. It felt right. We didn't need to wait, our love was strong and we both had our careers going well. There was nothing holding us back. Our wedding was like a dream, small and intimate but perfect. And our honeymoon in Zanzibar was magical. I still hold on to the memories of those days, the way Raymond looked at me, how deeply we loved each other. But here I am now, 2 years later, still broken, still regretting the choices I made. I destroyed something beautiful and it's all my fault. Raymond and I were deeply in love, and for the first couple of years, everything felt perfect. We decided not to have children right away. Both of us were at the peak of our careers, and we wanted to enjoy each other fully before taking on the responsibility of raising a family. And enjoy each other, we did. We traveled the world, had romantic dinners, surprise gifts, and spontaneous adventures. There were so many magical moments, watching the sunset in Paris, exploring Rome, and making love in the most unexpected places. Raymond was my biggest supporter, my best friend, and my love. But they say not all that glitters is gold. Little did I know, I was about to turn that gold into ashes with my own hands. The turning point came when I got injured. It happened during a friendly match with a neighboring team, but there was nothing friendly about the way they played. They were brutal, and by the end of the game I was taken off the court on a stretcher. We won the game, but I lost much more that day. The X-ray results showed a major dislocation in my left leg, something serious enough to keep me off the court for 6 weeks and requiring intense physical therapy. I was devastated. My career was everything to me, and being sidelined was a nightmare. But Raymond was there for me, his love and support making the situation a little more bearable. He was my rock. The doctor recommended one of the best physiotherapists in the city, Dr. Tobias Jameson, or Dr. Toby, as everyone called him. According to the doctor, Toby's methods were unconventional, but his success rate was high. I was eager to get back on my feet and trusted my doctor's recommendation. The day I met Dr. Toby, something felt off, different. He was nothing like the other physiotherapists I'd worked with before. Standing at 6 feet 6 inches, with a strong build and a perfectly groomed beard, Toby exuded confidence and control. He was tough yet soft-spoken, strict yet gentle. From the moment he touched my leg during that first session, I knew there was something dangerous about him. But I pushed those thoughts aside. My career was on the line, and I convinced myself that I could keep things professional. For the first week, everything was normal. Dr. Toby worked on my leg, and we spent time talking. He was quiet, mysterious, and he listened more than he spoke, which only made him more intriguing. I wasn't thinking about him as anything more than my physiotherapist at first. But things started to change when Raymond began to notice. Ray became uncomfortable with how much time I was spending with Dr. Toby. He would stand by the garage door, where our sessions took place, listening to our conversations and hearing me laugh more than usual. He didn't like it. I remember catching him eavesdropping once, and although I pretended not to notice, I could feel the tension growing between us. After holding it in for too long, Raymond finally spoke up. He suggested we get another physiotherapist, someone else to take over my sessions. I had never seen Ray jealous before, but he was now. For the sake of peace, I agreed. We hired Dr. Cindy, a capable therapist, but she wasn't Toby. There was no connection, no warmth. She was strictly business, and that wasn't what I wanted. I missed the conversations, the laughter, the ease I felt with Dr. Toby. After just one session with Cindy, I canceled her and called Dr. Toby back. In hindsight, I should have stuck with Dr. Cindy, but by then, Toby had already worked his way into my mind and heart. I couldn't let him go, even though I knew it would upset Raymond. When Ray found out I'd brought Toby back, we had a massive argument. He didn't understand why I'd gone against our agreement, and I didn't have a good explanation. The truth was, I was falling for Toby, but I didn't want to admit it to myself. We fought for days, barely speaking to each other. During that time, Dr. Toby continued to come over for my sessions. I could feel the boundaries between us blurring. The physical therapy turned into something more intimate. He would wrap his arms around my waist to support me during exercises, and his touch sent shivers down my spine. I knew what was happening, but I couldn't stop it. After 2 weeks of tension, Raymond apologized for making a big deal out of nothing. He said he trusted me and supported my decision to keep working with Dr. Toby. I should have felt relieved, but instead I felt guilty. Ray was trying to hold on to our marriage, and I was letting it slip away. That night we made love, but even in the middle of it, my mind wandered to Toby. I imagined his strong arms around me, and before I could stop myself, I whispered his name. Luckily, Ray didn't hear me. Then came the day Dr. Toby finally crossed the line. It was a rainy Friday, and Ray was out of town visiting his parents. I was home alone when Toby came over for what was supposed to be one of our last sessions. We had planned to go to the court for some light warm-up exercises, but the weather had other plans. Instead, we ended up in the living room watching a movie. I had my legs resting on his lap, and before long, he was massaging my feet. His touch was soft, gentle, and before I realized it, I let out a small moan. That was all the invitation he needed. He leaned in for a kiss, and I didn't resist. One kiss turned into more, and soon we were touching, caressing, and exploring each other's bodies right there on the couch. Dr. Toby took off my t-shirt and sweatpants, and I let him. In that moment, I didn't care about anything else. Not my marriage, not Raymond, nothing. Toby made love to me right there in the living room, and it was the beginning of my downfall. That night marked the start of an affair that would destroy everything I had worked so hard to build. After that night, everything changed. Toby and I crossed a line that I could never uncross. What started as innocent physical therapy turned into a full-blown affair. The guilt ate at me, but I couldn't stop. Toby's touch was intoxicating, and every time Raymond left the house, Toby and I took advantage of the situation. We made love in the garage, in the guest room, even on the couch where it all started. The thrill, the secrecy, it consumed me, and I lost sight of everything else. Raymond was still in the dark, trusting me completely. He thought we had worked through our issues and that I was committed to making our marriage stronger. Meanwhile, I was living a double life, deceiving him at every turn. Toby and I kept our affair hidden, meeting whenever Ray was out or too distracted to notice. I knew it was wrong. I knew I was playing with fire. Every time I was with Toby, I told myself it would be the last time, but I was in too deep. The connection we shared went beyond physical attraction. Toby was everything Ray wasn't: mysterious, dangerous, and exciting. But even with all that excitement, I knew in my heart that I was destroying something beautiful. Things reached a breaking point when Ray left for an annual conference out of town. He was supposed to be gone for the entire weekend, and Toby and I planned to spend that time together at my place. It wasn't the first time we'd arranged something like this, but something felt different about that weekend. I felt uneasy, like a part of me knew that it was a mistake waiting to happen. But the moment Toby showed up, all my worries vanished. His smile, his presence, it made me forget everything else. The first night, we couldn't keep our hands off each other. We moved from the living room to the stairs, finally ending up in the bedroom, the same bedroom I shared with Raymond. We had never taken our affair to that space before. It felt like we were crossing an even deeper line, one that made everything feel riskier, more dangerous. The sex that night was different. Maybe it was because of where we were, maybe it was because we knew how risky it was, but the intensity of it overwhelmed me. Toby's touch, his strength, everything about him made me feel alive in ways I hadn't felt in years. As we moved together, I was lost in the moment, blind to everything around me. So blind, in fact, that I didn't hear Raymond's car pull into the driveway. I didn't hear the door open. The first time I knew something was wrong was when I saw Ray standing in the doorway of our bedroom, watching us. His face was a mix of shock, anger, and heartbreak, and my heart dropped into my stomach. I tried to speak, but the words wouldn't come. Before I could even think, Ray lunged at Toby. The next few moments were a blur. Toby and Ray were tangled together in a violent struggle, fists flying and shouts filling the house. I screamed for them to stop, but neither of them listened. Ray, filled with fury, punched Toby over and over again until Toby managed to shove him back. They ended up outside the room, still fighting as they crashed down the stairs. I watched in horror as Toby pushed Ray hard enough to send him tumbling down the flight of stairs. Ray's body hit the ground with a sickening thud. I rushed down, screaming his name, but he wasn't moving. Toby stood there, his chest heaving, looking down at the mess we had both caused. The man I loved, the man who trusted me, was lying motionless at the bottom of the stairs because of me. Because of my choices. My betrayal had led to this. In the chaos that followed, I barely remember calling for an ambulance. Ray was rushed to the hospital, and though he survived, the fall left him with permanent injuries. He lost his ability to work and had to go through months of painful recovery. But even as his body healed, our marriage couldn't. The trust was gone, shattered like glass. And I knew it was entirely my fault. As for Toby, he was arrested and charged with attempted murder. He lost his license to practice and was sent to prison. I haven't seen him since, but the damage he caused, no, the damage I allowed remains. The aftermath of that night was a nightmare. Ray filed for divorce soon after he recovered physically, and I lost everything. My career, my endorsements, and most importantly, the man I loved. News of the affair and the fight spread like wildfire, and I was labeled a disgrace in both my personal and professional life. No one wanted to work with me after that, and I watched my career crumble before my eyes. Ray, despite everything, has tried to move on. He's learning to live with his new reality, but I know he'll never truly recover from what I did to him. I destroyed his life, our life, with one selfish decision after another. And now I'm left with nothing but regret. The love I had with Raymond was beautiful, but I let my desires and my weakness ruin it. I turned something pure into something ugly, and there's no way to fix it now. If I could go back and change things, I would. But life doesn't give us that chance. Now I'm left living with the consequences of my actions. I destroyed my marriage, my career, and the trust of the man who loved me unconditionally. Raymond is gone from my life, and there's no way to undo the damage I caused. I lost everything because of one selfish affair, and there isn't a day that goes by where I don't regret it. Raymond is learning to live with his new reality, his life forever changed by that fall down the stairs. He'll never be the man he once was, and it's because of me. His ability to work, his trust and love, everything was shattered in one night. And while Toby is sitting in prison for his part in the destruction, the real weight of guilt lies on my shoulders. I allowed this to happen. I opened the door to betrayal, and now I have to live with the consequences. My career is over. The scandal spread quickly, and my endorsements dropped me faster than I could blink. No team wants to work with a player whose personal life became a public disaster. I tried to rebuild, but it's impossible to escape the stain of what happened. I was once on top of the world, living my dream with Raymond by my side, but now I'm a shadow of the person I used to be. Every day, I wonder what my life would be like if I had just stayed faithful. If I hadn't let Toby get too close, if I had pushed him away when I had the chance. But those what-ifs are endless, and they won't change the reality I live in now. I let my desires, my selfishness, take over, and now I'm paying the price. I want to believe that Ray will find happiness again, that he'll be able to move on from the pain I caused him. He deserves that more than anyone. As for me, I don't know if I'll ever find peace. The guilt is constant, the regret overwhelming. I wish I could turn back time, but I know I can't. If there's anything I've learned from this, it's that betrayal destroys everything. It doesn't just ruin the person you betray, it ruins you too. I'm living proof of that. My life, my love, my career, it's all gone because I couldn't control myself. And now, I have to live with that for the rest of my life. If you found this story thought-provoking, or if you want to hear more real-life stories about the consequences of betrayal and heartbreak, check out my YouTube channel. Click on the video now to hear more. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more unfiltered content on love, relationships, and the tough choices we all face.